Hello you guys, it's Lily. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome to my channel. Today's gonna be a bit of a different video. I feel like I say that in any video that I make that is not like a sit down life talk video, but I have never filmed a video like this because I've never had a garden before. I really just want to share with you guys kind of like my garden journey this year and how I started it, and the main reason why is because I was very intimidated by gardening. I did not grow up gardening at all. My mom did not have a garden. We never had a garden. My grandma gardens, but she does more like landscape gardening, flowers and stuff like that, and usually buys like starts of flowers and bulbs and stuff like that. But I really wanted to do everything from seed. I really wanted to grow food. Like I wanted to have a grocery basically in my backyard, but I was very intimidated by it. And so I spent a lot of time researching and figuring out how to do it. And then now we're in August and the gardening season is still in the active growing time and stuff like that. So I thought it would be a good time to tell you guys what I did, how I started it, and then also what it looks like and stuff like that. Obviously, this is my first garden, my first season gardening, so I am not a professional at all. This is not like a how-to guide, honestly. I mean, I'm definitely going to give you like some tips and stuff like that, but I did not do everything perfectly. I cannot wait until next season because then I will be able to do things differently, but you have to start somewhere. So I'm really proud of myself for starting it. I think that's the hardest part, and now I've learned so much this year, and then next year, you know, I'll be able to change things and do things differently. I have no idea why my battery already died. So whatever, it's fine. Anyway, yeah, let's just get on into it. As I said, I'm just gonna share my experience, what I did, and then like you can kind of take some pointers from me, take my journey with you on your journey if you want to start a garden next year. I mean, there's always things you can plant, even like fall is a great time to plant things, but definitely if you want to grow like a bountiful harvest, starting to plan for next year is gonna be good. And that's why I am putting this video out now, because I actually started my like journey of researching gardening things about almost a year ago. So I started in September of last year. So I knew that I wanted to garden when we moved. So whatever house we moved into, whenever we finally had our own house, I wanted to start a garden. Whether our backyard was super small or big, I wanted a garden. So thankfully our backyard, which you'll see later on, but our backyard is a really great size. It's all flat and it has lots of sunlight, and that is like the biggest thing is sunlight. You need a space, like if you're in a very wooded area, not a very like light area, you'll still have some success because plants just grow. Like that's what I've learned throughout this whole season of gardening is just plants will grow, whether they have a bunch of sunlight or not, but they do love sun. There's not a lot of sun blocking, but there is, like, we have a shed that sometimes blocks the light, you know, in the morning or at night, and then like our house and like other houses will block the sun at different parts of the day, but usually, you know, like during the summer, during the day, when the sun's out, like nothing was being blocked or anything like that. Anyway, but when we bought our house in September, I started researching gardening in September. I was like, okay, I want to know what to do before I do it. I want to be, like, I'm just a very prepared person. That's just my personality. If you're not like that, then you probably don't understand, but I like want to just be as prepared as possible for anything ever. So researching and like getting to know the terms and the success of how to, you know, plant things properly or grow things properly, like I just wanted to know that. I watched a lot of YouTube videos, so the main person that I watched was MIgardener. He's a very popular gardener on YouTube, and he lives in Michigan actually. He lives about 45 minutes from where I live. And so he has years and years and years of videos on his YouTube. I think he started his YouTube channel when he was like a teenager, and he's like in his 30s now. So he has lots of videos. So I liked watching a lot of his older videos. There was a playlist called it was like Gardens for Beginners or something like that, and it was like a playlist of literally how to start a garden from like seed and everything like that, and like they built raised beds and stuff like that. That was really helpful. I watched that a few times. And then I also listened to some podcasts, some gardening podcasts. The number one that I listened to was called Organic Gardening for Beginners. She actually started her podcast in May of 2023. So I started listening to her when she like kind of just started her podcast, and that has just, the episodes are not super long, but they're very informational, and it's just really easy to understand what she's saying. And she's grown in a bunch of different areas, so I will leave both of them linked down below. That is like the education that I used. During like the fall and winter, if I was driving, I was having to drive in the fall last year a lot to go back to where we lived to do weddings on the weekends. So I literally had like 8 hours, 4 hours there, 4 hours back to listen to podcasts and stuff. So I listened to a lot of podcasts and just did a lot of research. So basically, once I, listened to a bunch of podcasts, watched a bunch of videos, and I was like, okay, I decided how I wanted to grow my garden. So you can grow your garden using starts from nurseries or from like even Whole Foods or like Trader Joe's, even your grocery store, farmers markets. You can get plant starts from there, or you can start from seed. So I personally wanted to start from seed because I wanted to do this on as little of a budget as possible. Seed packets, they're like $2, and they have like hundreds of seeds in them depending on what you're planting. But yeah, so $2 for like hundreds of seeds that you can use that will last you like a lot of garden seasons. I wanted to do that, but also when you're starting from seed, you need a few other equipment things, especially if you live in a climate that has winter. If you live in like Florida or like a warmer climate like California, you don't really need a seed starting kit that you start indoors. But because I live in an area that has like pretty long winters and a shorter growing season, I needed something to help start my seeds before planting them in the ground. So I knew I wanted to start from seed. Then you're also having to buy the seed starting kits, all that kind of stuff. Really, you just buy it once and then it will last you years, so it's kind of worth it. Whereas, getting starts, you have to buy those every year. Basically, when it came around to it, I started buying the products. So I started buying things around like Christmas time. I actually asked for some things for Christmas for my garden. So I asked for like some seed starting trays. I asked for like a little gardening kit, like toolkit, like shovel, stuff like that, like a watering can, just little stuff. But I am going to create an Amazon storefront that you guys can actually go and look and see all the stuff that helped me start my garden. I'll try to put everything that I have on there. That will be linked down below. So I started getting some things during Christmas, but then really I bought like the majority of the stuff around like March. And as I said, I was trying to do it on as little of a budget as possible, but at the same time, what I said before, when you start from seed, the things that you buy, like even the seeds, like you just buy them one time and then you have them for a long time. Like the lights that you buy, the rack that you buy, all that kind of stuff, you just had to buy it once unless you want to upgrade later. For seed starting, I'll kind of give you like the basics of what you need if you want to start from seed. So I bought a wire rack, which was not that expensive. I think it was like 30 bucks on Amazon. Mine was a little bit narrow. I need a wider one, but it worked. So I'll probably keep that for a little bit and then maybe get a bigger one later on. You need trays. So depending on how you want to grow the seeds, I just use plastic trays, but you can use compostable trays. It just depends. I used like a 60 something cell one, and then you then up pot to like a 30 cell. there's a bunch of different things you'll see on my Amazon storefront, but you need trays, you need soil. So I use just compost. My friend that gardens recommended to do that, so I did that, and I got a lot of success using compost. I used Vermont compost, I believe that's what it's called. It's like an organic compost. I think I'm going to continue to do that. That was probably like the most expensive thing. I think like the huge bag was like 40 bucks. Then you obviously need to buy the seeds, which was $2 for like each seed packet. I actually bought them off of MIgardener, and I actually picked them up at his store. I actually have a video reel, I'll link it down below, of me going and getting them from his store. And then you need grow lights. So originally MIgardener really recommends using like specific grow lights for your growing your seeds, but the podcast that I listened to, she just said you can just use industrial lights. You do not need to buy fancy expensive ones because they can add up a lot. So I ended up just getting the industrial lights. I think I bought a pack of 4 for like, I don't remember, but it wasn't that expensive. And they last a long time. You only use them for like 2 months, and then you shut them off and don't use them again for until the next year. So those worked really well. My plants grew really well. There was no problems there. You just have to make sure that they're close enough to the plant when they're growing. And then other than that, you just need like a spray bottle, watering can, and heat mats are really important, especially if you're growing things like peppers, like really warm climate vegetables. You really want heat mats, and I bought a pack of 2 on Amazon for I think like $20 or $30, something like that, so not expensive. And again, you use those every year. Actually, my grandma bought me a little like garden journal. I'll show you later. She bought me that for Christmas, so that has been really helpful to log like the progress of the seeds that I started this year, and to see like if I liked them, if I didn't like them, stuff like that. Or you could keep it in like your notes app, or you know, on a piece of paper or something like that. Once you get all that stuff, once you start your seeds and all that, planting outside, so you obviously have to decide what you're gonna do with the seedlings once, you know, you can plant them outside. I decided to do all raised beds. I did not want to dig up my yard personally. This can get pricey. Apparently you can make your own raised beds and it costs not that much. But as I was researching, I was doing a lot of research, you know, trying to do the cheapest route, and each raised bed that I would have gotten, or I would have gotten like the lumber from like Home Depot or Lowe's, each raised bed would have been about like $30 for a pretty big sized bed. You know, professionals suggest to get cedar wood, which will last a lot longer, but you can get non-cedar wood, but it just does not last as long. It just depends on your budget and what you want to do, but I actually did not go that route. I actually bought my raised beds off of Facebook Marketplace. This guy made them. They are a lot smaller than what I was anticipating, what I wanted originally, but I bought 6 of them, I think. And they are made out of, I forget what it's called, like the type of wood. It may be cedar, but they treat the wood, it's treated. That lasts a lot longer. And they were $20, but they're pretty small. You'll see when we go out there. It's like half of a full-length raised bed, basically. So I bought 6 of those, and they were $20 each. It really wasn't that expensive, but they're also gonna last a while. I think I'll probably have them for about like 6 or 7 years. And then obviously you need to buy soil. So the soil that I use, I just went to actually Walmart and bought an organic growing soil there. And that was actually the cheapest that I found for a 2-quart, I think that's cubit, I don't know. Whatever the measurements are, it was about like $3 each. Or is that right? That might be wrong. It might have been like $6. I'm not 100% sure. I'll have to go back and look. But it wasn't that expensive, and I bought, I don't even remember how many bags I bought, but you can go to a nursery, and a lot of places will actually ship soil to you, or like bring soil to you to your driveway. But the thing is with that is that they just drop soil on your driveway or the place that you want it, and then you have to shovel it into the beds. And I was like, that is just way too much work. And I was pregnant at the time. I was in my first trimester, so I was like, I'm just not even gonna do that. I'm just gonna buy a bunch of bags of soil. So I kind of did it the more expensive route. If you do go with the route of having someone bring it to you, it's a little bit cheaper. I was like, I'm not doing that. I'm just gonna buy the bags and throw them in the beds. So, and the beds are smaller. So anyway, I don't remember how many bags I bought, but I think we spent about like $100 on soil. If you want to, it's recommended to put like compost on top or like a fertilizer. I actually did not use compost because I grew my seeds with compost. I ended up just not putting any compost in, but I did get some fertilizer. I got 2 bags, which I did not even use, not even close to half of one of the bags, so I'll have that for a while. And then I decided to mulch. So mulching was like the #1 thing that the girl from the podcast I listened to recommended to do to eliminate weeds in the garden beds. And so I did end up buying, I don't remember how many bags of mulch, but that wasn't not that expensive, honestly. But it was super worth it, but you do have to mulch every year. That's the one thing, is that, you know, it decomposes and stuff like that. You have to buy tomato cages if you're planting tomatoes, and trellises for anything that you want to trellis. You will see, did not prepare enough with trellises. You really should do that like when you're putting your garden together, get your trellises, but I got one from Meijer and I should have gotten more than one, and I need a way taller one because you'll see I put it with my squash and it's just all over the place. Basically, before you plant your stuff, you want to make an outline of your garden. So I just did it on a piece of paper, and you just want to like plan out, you know, what you're growing, where you want it to go, you know, where you want your garden beds to go, and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, so basically the process of, you know, start to finish was I started my seeds in March. The last frost date in our area is like in April, or no, it's in May. So it's in like Mother's Day, during Mother's Day. But I was nervous because I didn't want any of my plants to freeze. So, you know, it's always up in the air. Some years are longer winters, some are shorter. We actually had a shorter winter this year. And so I started most of my seeds in March, and then I started some in April as well, the ones that needed shorter time. So, but I started mine a little bit later than probably most people, just because I wanted to make sure they didn't get any frost. When I planted the seeds and everything in my little seed starting trays, I put the heat mats on and cover them with the lids, and then I would take them off once I see some germination. Keep them super wet, super moist. When I just have the seeds in there, I just spray, but then once they start germinating, I water with the watering can. So you want to keep them really moist while they're growing. Once you got your seedlings and everything like that, this is about like June, last week of May, early June, you know, you want to harden your plants, your seedlings off. So that is basically you're just taking them outside for a few hours every day and then bringing them back inside. That is going to really establish the roots and get the roots strong, because if you just throw them out into your garden, they're going to be very sad and leggy, and they will not be as strong. So you do that for about a week. You start with like an hour or two, and then by the end of the week, they're out there for like 24 hours. So that's just to like get them used to being outside. So then you plant your seedlings, and then you just water them and watch them grow. I feel like they grew so fast. I was finished planting by like June, and my garden is just wild now. So you'll obviously see in a few minutes. Now that my plants are starting to grow and everything like that, and I'm getting harvests, I'm still continuing to listen to podcasts, and I watch, you know, people on Instagram and stuff like that. I follow like some gardeners on Instagram. So I'm definitely continuing to educate myself. That's pretty much the very fast outline of the process from start to finish. But as I said, like, I'm not the professional, you know, this is just what I did. So definitely do your research, watch your YouTube videos, listen to podcasts, stuff like that. But as I said, I was very nervous about starting. It was very intimidating to me, but honestly, everything grew so well. Most everything germinated very, very, very well. The thing that I will be doing differently next year is not putting 2 to 3 tomato seeds in one cell, because they all germinated, and I have basically 2 to 3 tomato plants in one soil block thing. It would have been so hard to try to separate them, so I just didn't. And my tomato plants have been so heavy that they've knocked over, you know, the tomato cages. The tomato cages are completely like destroyed. I'll have to throw them away and get new ones next year. But I've heard that's pretty common because the tomatoes just get so heavy in general. But definitely next year I will just do like one seed in each cell because they just germinate so well. You know, there's other things that like I'll start some things earlier than I did this year. I want to grow a lot more flowers next year. Flowers are so fun and so pretty, so I definitely want to do that. And I'm probably going to get more garden beds next year, more raised beds. I want to expand next year, but I have my good start, my good base right now. So I'm going to go show you my seed starting area, and then I will show you the tour of the garden. So I'm actually not going to bring my camera outside because this camera that I'm using, side note, is my older camera and it doesn't focus automatically. I lost my battery charger for my other camera and I've just been too lazy to buy a new charger for it. So, like a charger for the batteries. So I've just been using this. But anyway, Jack is going to follow me around the garden, so I don't want it to be out of focus and stuff like that. So I'm just gonna use my phone. So the quality is gonna change and the sound's gonna change, but I'm gonna use a little microphone. So hopefully that helps with the sound outside. All right, let's go. I'm gonna show you my seed starting rack and then I'm going to show you the tour of my garden. Okay, the lighting in here is not going to be very good because we are in the basement and this is like the unfinished part of the basement with all the storage. But so here is my seed starting area. So as you can see, I have these lights. So as I said, the rack is a little bit too thin for the lights. So the lights were a little long. I was a little bit nervous to put the chains on them like that, but because they are like LED, there is no like fire hazard or anything like that. They were completely fine. They did not really get hot. That was all good. And then these are the trays. So actually, I think there's only like 2 trays that I didn't use, and then all the lids, obviously. And then I do have these trays that I actually didn't even use, so I can use those next year. I have my heat mats down here. Here's my gardening book, but yeah, so like you can just put what you planted, when, where, what day, and just little notes. I definitely recommend that. I have my 2 spray bottles down here. This is like a fine mist spray bottle. And then here's all my seeds. So I have this little, what is this, drawer thing. I'll probably need to get a different way of doing that because there's too many seeds. Can't get it out. These are like twist ties or whatever they're called. When the plants weren't super big, I would, you know, lower the lights with the twist ties or whatever, zip ties, that's what they're called. And then once the plants got really, really big, I would put the zip ties all the way up. These chains actually came with the lights. That was actually really helpful. Oh, I forgot to mention you do need some gardening markers. So these are really good. They do not weather away with like rain and stuff like that. Yeah, gardening markers for when you write down like what plant you are planting. And then these are the gardening sticks when you, write down what you're planting and stuff like that. And then this is my outline of my garden. I'm not going to show you because it's not that cute, but definitely gonna make a new one next year, so that'll be fun. So that is my seed starting rack. So it's right here for right now, but it was over here. So this is right by the stairs, so it was just easier to access on the daily right here. So yep, that is my seed starting rack, and let's go outside to the garden. Okay, so what you've all been waiting for, my garden tour. Oh, just dropped the microphone. So yeah, as you can see, our backyard is pretty spacious, so I had a good space for a garden. So okay, let's start over here. So this is our deck that is very old and needs to be redone because I fell through the deck. So did Jack. So yeah, so over here, okay, so I did plant mint by itself because mint grows really, really fast and really wild. So I grew that in its own pot. And then I actually just got this basil plant from Trader Joe's because I have basil in the garden, but it only grew one like plant of it, and I need more than that. So I'll know that for next year, but this is an organic plant from Trader Joe's and it's beautiful. So I ended up putting that over here. So then over here is some flowers in these planters. So originally this wasn't supposed to happen, but I did end up starting too many flower plants. So I was like, with the extras, I just put in these pots and they've actually done really well. This is zinnias and black-eyed Susans. And then over here, we have snapdragons and amaranth, which is really big. Yeah, I didn't know it was going to get this big, so I'll definitely plant this just in the garden next year, not in like a pot like this. Snapdragons will come back next year. We'll see if I might be able to like dig them up and put them in like the ground or something, but I was surprised. Okay, let's go into the actual garden. So here we go. Here's the garden. So as you can see, the garden beds are like a lot smaller than what a real, I guess, normal size garden bed is. They're about 2 of these. So 2 of them make up about 1. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, I have 7, not 6. So on this first one right here, have carrots, and I started these in the ground in like June, I think. And then I have onions down here. So there's onions, and then green, like bunching onions. I have not taken them out, and I have not taken the carrots out because I took some carrots out and they were all deformed and weird. So I'm like, okay, I just guess I'm gonna keep them in there for a while. And then here are red bell peppers. These didn't grow very fast because they were hounded by these tomato plants. So these tomato plants, I literally just pruned all of them this past weekend. It was crazy before. So these are like big fat tomato plants. They're like juicy tomatoes. So they're called Arkansas Traveler tomatoes. Red and green bell peppers, they will be giving me some in a couple weeks, hopefully. Okay, so then this is like all tomatoes. So these are all cherry tomatoes right here. So I have 4 plants, but technically there's like way more than 4 because, as I said earlier, I planted way too many seeds in the same seed cell. Then I had potatoes, russet potatoes and gold potatoes, but the tomatoes were so like were overgrowing the potatoes. I don't know, like some of them still might be good, but yeah, like a lot of them lost all their leaves and stuff like that. So kind of looks sad in there. And then over here is my squash bed, which is I'm gonna need to do something different next year because, as you can see, it's crazy. So I have pumpkins growing back here. You can't really see. I have winter squash, nasturtium, which did not get to grow very well because they were being bombarded by the squash. And then I have baby boo pumpkins back here. So yeah, they're just everywhere. As you can see, there's a trellis in here, but the trellis was way not big enough. It was way too small. So I'm going to need to get a big arch or something like that next year so that I can grow up it. Thankfully, we have a lot of space, so the leaves and vines are just growing all over the place right now. I started corn, and it's doing pretty well. It's almost done, actually. So I'm really excited for that because I love corn. 4 corn plants, but one got dug up by an animal. So it's very baby plant back there. And then these are Roma tomatoes. Over here, these are green beans. Well, it's called bush bean, but I pretty much got like all of them. I think it's pretty much done at this point. There's like one right here. Here's a little bean. And then I have spinach down here that's doing really well. I can probably start picking that soon. And then over here, we have a really random bed. And another thing I'm going to do next year differently is broccoli is gonna have to be in its own bed if it's gonna be in a small bed like this because it's huge. So broccoli is pretty much done. As you can see, there's some like little heads, but I probably won't really use those because they flowered. But I have cucumbers over here. So if you come in here, this cucumber is literally gigantic. So it's supposed to be a pickling cucumber, but I'm like, how the heck am I gonna pickle that? It's humongous. So I still haven't picked it yet. I probably should. These are Cosmos. I love these Cosmos, but I will have to do something different next year because it just didn't have enough space to grow. Cucumber, I didn't get a trellis, as you can see, so it's kind of just like going over everything, and eventually it's going to reach these sunflowers, and I'm going to like let them crawl up there. Here I have calendula, which is a like medicinal flower that I have not used yet, but it's pretty. And then I have oregano that's like all over the place down here. That grew really, really slow, and then it just, once it started growing, it grew really fast. So, oh, I had kale back here, but I already cut all the kale. I did try to grow parsley and cilantro, but it just did not grow very well, so I'm gonna have to start that earlier next year. If you come over here, you can see the parsley a little bit. Yeah, but like it did not grow. It's a very slow grower. So here we have cabbage. To be honest, as I said, I'm not an expert at gardening, so I don't know when this will be done, but it's doing pretty well. I feel like I should have picked it by now, but whatever. We have celery over here, so this is all celery. This took a really long time to grow too, so that's a really long grower, or really slow grower. And then as you can see, these are sunflowers, so these are beautiful. Sunflowers are so easy to grow, literally so easy to grow. Yeah, and then this huge plant is called Tithonia. I will not be growing it again in the garden bed because it is so big. It's literally a tree. I don't even know how I'm going to get it out of the garden bed. Yeah, it takes up way too much room. There's some pretty flowers that grow on it, but it's just way too big. This is more black-eyed Susans and more zinnias. Zinnias are beautiful. I will be growing lots more zinnias in the future. And then this is borage, which is another medicinal flower. I think it's really pretty. I don't know if I'm going to harvest it because I don't know. I thought it was fun to grow, but I just don't know if I'm going to like really use it that much. I guess I could dry it out, but I have a little snapdragon over here. It's like this purple flower. Snapdragons, because they are perennials, they'll come back bigger next year. So this year, it was small. And then lastly, we have sweet potato, these sweet potato plants. So I actually wasn't going to plant them because I started them from potatoes. Actually, all my potatoes I started from potatoes from the store, organic potatoes. I didn't know if I was going to have enough room for my sweet potatoes, and I started a bunch. I started so many. But I was going to put way more flowers in this garden, but I didn't end up putting more flowers in the garden. So I just put my sweet potatoes here, and they've been loving it. And I think I'm going to have a good harvest. Probably harvest those in like October or something like that. Guess we'll see. Potatoes are kind of hard to grow, but or like not hard to grow, but they just don't get super big if you don't have good like soil and stuff like that. So, and then I guess I'll show you my other sunflower. I have another whole sunflower garden basically. So when I started my sunflowers, I started them from seed in a tray. They grew so fast, and I started too many again in one cell. And so I just have all these sunflowers. I didn't want to just throw them away. So this patch was a whole like weed patch, basically. It just was not weed, like weeds. And it was like just overgrown. So Jack and I, one day, I was pregnant when I did all of this, by the way, in my first trimester. And we ripped out all the weeds. It took so long. We dug everything. We had got a till. What was it called? Is it a till thing? Yeah, we got like a tiller, garden tiller. We dug up like, all these weeds. It was so much work. But then I planted my sunflower starts, and now this is what they look like. So, yeah. But that is my garden tour. That is my garden video. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed, please let me know. And I will be back next year probably to show you my garden for next year. And I will have a baby next year. Yes, it has been a very fun journey. I'm glad I researched everything before like the growing season because it definitely helped. It was a lot while pregnant in my first trimester, but it was fun to do and kind of give me something to do, get outside while I was not feeling the best. Thank you for watching, and yeah, I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!